The Silence Before Midnight, Episode 10, 11:58. People think punishment is the end of a story. It isn't. Punishment is only what happens after the story asks who you are. The real ending is what you choose next. Kojo Bedu sat in the holding room at the Central Police Station. No microphone, no headphones, no studio light, just a metal chair, a table bottled on the floor, and silence that did not care who he used to be. The confession had spread by morning. Clips from the broadcast were everywhere. Listeners debated him. Some called him brave, others called him a coward. Many called him exactly what he feared. Too late. Kojo did not argue with any of them, because for once, public opinion felt smaller than private truth. He had spoken, he had admitted it, and yet the weight had not disappeared. That is the thing no one tells you. Truth does not erase damage. It only stops new lies from growing around it. The investigators had questioned him for hours. The old case was being reopened. Witnesses were being traced. Other people from the night had begun coming forward. The crowd had names now. Silence was becoming evidence. By late evening, the station quieted. Footsteps faded. Phones rang farther away. Rains began outside, soft at first, then steady. Kojo looked through the narrow window in the door. A young constable hurried past, then returned, then hurried past again. Something was wrong. Voices rose in the corridor. Chairs moved, a woman crying, someone shouting for help. Kojo stood up. The door opened. An officer rushed by, carrying towels. Behind him, another voice yelled. She collapsed outside. Then, where is the ambulance? And then the words that froze the room. It will take time. Kojo stepped into the corridor before anyone stopped him. At the front entrance, people had gathered under the awning. Rain blew in sideways. On the ground lay a pregnant woman struggling to breathe. Her husband knelt beside her, panicked, useless with fear. Several officers stood around, talking, calling numbers, waiting. Now, listen carefully, because life has a cruel way of returning us to ourselves. Same panic, same crowd, same hesitation, different road, different night, same test. Kojo did not think. He moved. Stop staring, he shouted. His voice cut through the chaos. You, bring that chair flat. You, get towels. You, clear space. You, call again and stay on the line. People obeyed instinctively. The same thing that once made him dangerous now made him useful. He knelt beside the woman, spoke calmly, kept her conscious, checked her airways, asked simple questions, used his jacket beneath her head. Rain soaked through him. It didn't matter. The husband trembled. Kojo grabbed his shoulder. Stay with her. Speak to her. The man nodded, crying. The crowd transformed, no longer spectators, but now helpers. Hands moved, doors opened, lights flashed in the distance, siren. At last, the paramedics rushed in. They took over, they lifted her carefully, and they loaded her into the ambulance. One medic turned back and said, if you hadn't moved when you did. He didn't even finish. He didn't need to. The door slammed. The ambulance pulled away into the rain and red lights. Silence settled over the entrance. Different silence now. Breathing silence. The young constable stared at Kojo, then asked quietly, how did you know what to do? Kojo looked at the wet pavement, at the space where she had laid, and answered honestly, I knew what not doing looks like. No one spoke, because some truths need no decoration. They simply stand there. An older officer approached, handcuff in his hands, duty returning. He paused, looked at Kojo for a long moment, then said, it's time to go back inside. Kojo nodded. No hesitation, no request for mercy. As they turned, the digital clock on the wall above the reception desk changed. 11:57. Then 11:58. Kojo stopped walking, not from fear, but from understanding. For night, time had froze at the moment of failure, the minute where a man needed help and too many people chose distance. 11:57 had never been magic. It had been memory, a wound refusing to close, and now, for the first time, it moved. 11:58. 1 minute later, one choice later, one life closer to saved. Kojo smiled sadly, small, private. The officer beside him asked, "What is it?" Kojo shook his head and said, "Nothing." But it wasn't nothing, it was everything. As they led him back down the corridor, Kojo heard no mysterious voices, no phone, no warning, only rain, only footsteps, only the ordinary sound of consequences continuing. And before he entered the cell, he whispered the sentence one final time, not in fear, not in guilt, but in understanding. May it never be said that we stood knees deep in a river but died of thirst. The door closed, the lock turned, and somewhere beyond walls, beyond rain, beyond punishment, morning kept coming. This is the end of The Silence Before Midnight. Thank you for staying with me throughout the whole 10 episodes. Tomorrow we begin a new series. Remember to follow this page for interesting stories such as this.